Hello everyone, it's Josh again, or Circle Circle Math on Instagram. I'm answering a few more of the questions I got asked last week for tutorials, and one of the questions I got asked a couple times were how to use the texture pack from ArtGrab, as well as how I do the color grading and everything on my photos. So for this one, I've already kind of did my little piece. I'm not going to go too much into this part on how I did this, but you can look up my other tutorials and it'll show you how to cut the face open and, add those other elements. So I guess let's start with the texture pack. A few months ago, I created this free texture pack on ArtGrab. I will link this in the description. But there's different things. There's a CD mockup, there's paper, there's holographic elements, grunge, which is my favorite. Then we have the plastics. So real quick, I'm just going to kind of show you how to use those and be on our way. Okay, so holographic. This one's kind of by the case scenario on when you would use this, and it's probably more in graphic design rather than the art stuff, but who am I to limit your creativity? So really this one's pretty easy. You're just gonna add it above whatever you're going to. I typically use overlay for these. You can mask it out, do whatever, but the coolest thing is you can add some Gaussian blur to it and kind of make it your own just with the colors in there. All kinds of stuff. Then you can play with the blending modes, and there's all different kinds that you can really add to it. Crazy little things with the holographic one. So that one's really just playing with the blending mode, and that's kind of the same for all of these really. So let's go ahead and go to grunge, which is something that I'll most likely keep. There's 5 here, different little bits of grain and scratches. I think number 1's my favorite. I use it time and time again. The things are just really crisp and the black's pretty black. So for this one, I kind of like the scratches going a certain way. Then I always go to screen or overlay. And it's kind of hard to notice, if you zoomed out, but there's a nice little texture right there just to give it a more vintage look. Sometimes I would go through and kind of ease up the opacity on a mask and just make it really stand out more in the background. So that one's that. You can also do color dodge with these, and that's going to make the whites a little bit wider. Once again, it doesn't work with every image depending on the stuff, but you see how different that is compared to this. It's wild. A lot more texture, a lot more grain to it all, but I like it very subtle, just a little nod right here. There's something about all the cameras just being too realistic and having to use the grunge just to dirty it up. So we also have the papers. This is another one that can kind of be fun in graphic design stuff. Like these little elements I'd probably put behind some other type or picture, but then I have these black ones. This black aluminum is pretty cool. So with this, it's kind of like the poster mock-ups. It's really easy to overlay without having to do smart layers. You can adjust it how you want, and then once again, this is going to be a screen. It looks like this may not be the right color, but it just adds that little bit of texture. If I really wanted to come through and make this look like it was actual paper, I could do a little mask right here. I feel like the Happy Trees guy, just make it yours. But so what I would do is add a new layer, use my work path with it, which I just created, select, and then add a mask. I would go to my brush which is B. I already have a brown selected over here, so, well, it's going to be the opposite of what I want, but I can fix that. So I would invert this mask, and boom. You know, it kind of looks like there's a piece of paper. It's really cool how that one little thing just changed the whole picture. So yeah, definitely have fun with the paper and the grunge. And then there's the plastic. These are, you know, a little wild, a little out there. Some of them are as simple as, you know, a screen. And then it looks like there's a bag over her head or something along those lines. So pretty cool stuff you can do there. You know, if you want, you can warp it to their face by right-clicking, go to warp, and then it's going to give you this cool little thing. You can put it up over the shoulder, you know, really give it the concave of their face, and then, you know, maybe mask it out. So yeah, that's the plastics. You know, there's a few in there. Stuff like, you know, the bubble wrap. I haven't really used the bubble wrap yet. Kind of the same thing. There's a lot of different blending modes you can do this one with. You have to kind of get creative with this one. I haven't found the perfect use. And what else? Oh, little bags. If you want to put something in the bag, I think this is a really great texture too, especially for like some graphic design overlays on some type or, you know, email, all that kind of stuff. So the second half, I really wanted to talk about coloring. That was something a lot of you asked, how I color grade and do all that. So what I'm going to do is copy this, Command J, Command E to flatten it, and then I like to work non-destructively. So I will always turn this into a smart object. So you right click that, convert to smart object, then you can press Command Shift A to bring up the camera raw filter, or you can go up to filter camera raw. So to make this short and sweet and really just go through it, I'm just going to kind of show you what I typically do, though it always depends on the picture, and I suggest getting in here and playing with all the buttons and kind of seeing what you like and don't like. So I usually start with clarity, and that's really going to bring out the black, straighten it up, and then I boost the texture depending on what I want. You know, you can go all the way left to make it look blurry, you know, really smooth, fake, almost like a painting. So maybe I will keep that down, but boost the texture. And then I've been really into trying to make it look more film-like, especially after the effects. So there's a lot I can do there to achieve that. I'm really going to turn down the contrast. You know, maybe bump the highlight just a little bit. The shadows I'll bring up too. And then I can go either way with this. You know, you can go all the way blue, keep the peachy tones and go yellow. I may end up doing two different filters and just kind of like doing the background blue and then the, you know, body more natural yellow. So let's go with the yellow one for right now. And then you can give the peachiness some more with the purple tint. I turn up the vibrance a lot and saturation down. And then this is probably one of the bigger parts, the curve. So I add 3 dots, 3 little points on here. And why I do that is because I usually adjust the extremes. You know, you can totally mute this and look like an old vintage photo, kind of like on those little metal tins. But I bring it right here just to boost it up just a little bit. And then I flatten out the blacks. I never like true black, you know. I just raise it up just a little bit to get that little gray area going on. Then I will come back to the channels a little bit later after I adjust a few more colors. So from there I go to the hue, saturation, and luminance. And I don't really have too many colors in this, which is kind of striking. I usually like to have blue if I have an orange subject or highlight, but I didn't really get that with this picture, which is probably why I'll come back in and do that to the background. So the HSL, I will always turn my reds a little orange to give it that vintage feel, maybe a little more mustard in my yellow. There is green here, so I'll make that a little more green. You know, if I really wanted something to stand out like the reds, I could bump that up. I don't really have blue, but when I do have blue, I usually go for the teals, you know, the aqua kind of thing going on. You can adjust the lightness of every individual color. This photo doesn't really need it too much. It's already almost there with the photography. So then I'll move to the split toning. The split toning is going to have the highlights and the shadows. This is what I typically do. I go to around 180, 185, turn it up, not too much because you can easily make the skin green. Then I'll go 15 on the shadows with a little orange and, you know, go through that. Not too much, otherwise it does look like an old photo, but somewhere, and every picture has its own. Sometimes I'll do purple too. I've been liking that a little bit more. Then we have the grain. This is usually where I add my grain, not any kind of extra layer, which I see a lot of people do, but right here I'll go through, finish it with this, kind of bring the size down, depending on if it's for print or, you know, Instagram, some kind of digital platform. And then we get to the calibration. So if it wasn't quite right, you can come back through, kind of fix the colors. The difference here is that it's going to lump all the kind of reds and greens and blues, when this one's a little more fine-tuned. So when that's done, I usually come back to the curve and adjust the RGB curves. These are very, very sensitive. So I once again add the 3 little dots. And recently I've kind of discovered that a lot of older photographs kind of have this green hint in the midtones. So, you know, you can see how powerful these are and, you know, what it's going to adjust. But I kind of keep them to the line, just add a little bit, you know, right here in the back. For the shadows, there's a lot of red in this one, so I'll probably work more closely with this. And add a little more red in the shadow area. Right there in the almost the midtones. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. What I would do if I wanted that to be her face in the background a little different, I would come through, keep everything almost the same, but, you know, fix the temperature, not too much. About right there. Press OK. And that's the best thing about having a smart object, is that you keep it down here in the smart filters. So I would add a mask and kind of paint out where I want her body tones to come through. And, you know, I typically spend a little bit more time with this, but for the sake of the video, I think I'll kind of end it here. But I appreciate it, everyone. If you end up posting something like this on Instagram and found this tutorial helpful, I'd love to hear it and see what you did. And y'all have a great day.